Ready?
Yeah.
I'm going to Barnsley. I've never been to Barnsley before. Why are you going to Barnsley, Greg? I'll tell you. I've been asked to make a documentary about this little book, A Kestrel for a Knave by Barry Hines. I love this book, and this book is set in Barnsley. It was one of the first things I ever read. It was one of the first stories at school that really got me, that really drew me in. And then later, it came back into my life again because I became a teacher, and it was my go-to book in the classroom to get children engaged, especially kids who didn't want to read particularly. That little book always drew them in. It's my first documentary. I have to wear the same shirt for the whole documentary for continuity reasons. So I've already learnt before we start. BBC presenters, they smell. As you watch me inexplicably film from above, walking up a road, know this. Our trip will unearth proof that the original Billy Casper can still flick the V.
Screw you.
The wisdom of a pop star.
Like, we all need to take the jesses off now and again.
God, we do. A live hawk. Oh, Tiffin. A man with a live hawk. Garment sniffing. And another man with a live hawk. I probably shouldn't have eaten fish before I started doing a piece to camera. There'll be technical problems. Look if I stand up. How did you get on with Barry Hines, Millie? But don't panic. Mainly, I'm here to celebrate a much-loved book. If A Kestrel for a Knave asks anything of people, it's to find the thing that you love.
Precisely.
Consider yourself teased. What I have realised is I actually know very little about this book outside of the story. I know nothing of the author, Barry Hines, and nothing about Hoyland Common near Barnsley, the South Yorkshire town that was the book's setting. What I do know is that A Kestrel for a Knave has been in print since it was first published in 1968. For many, it's better known as the film Kes, made little more than a year after the book came out. The story of Billy Casper, a boy from a mining community who teaches himself to train a kestrel, has been capturing people's imaginations for decades.
Casper, where the devil have you been?
Nowhere, sir.
Nowhere? Who are you, the invisible man?
It's a roller coaster of brutality, hope, despair, and iconic comedy.
And Bobby Charlton has equalised for Manchester United.
Its influence rearing its head over the years in the most unlikely places.
It's a kestrel, sir.
Beautiful. Can it fly?
Yes, it's flying now, sir.
Here in Hoyland Common, I'm keen to know if the book and film still speak to the local people today. The answer to that question comes quickly. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've got DVD and law.
Have you?
And,
Have you watched it?
Yeah, I've watched it like 100 times, to be honest with you. It's just really good how he's trained a kestrel from a certain age, and like it'd take people years and years to do that.
I mean, you know, are you rolling on this?
Well, I didn't know until my dad was saying, Keswick filmed here and all that. I don't know what to say.
You've said enough. That's amazing. In 1968, these houses were full of mining families just getting on with their lives. 1 year later, in the summer of '69, something mad happened in Hoyland Common. A film crew descended. Now, that in itself would have been big news round here, but then the community got word that Ken Loach, the director, didn't want to use trained actors. He wanted to cast from the local community. And so suddenly these people found themselves queuing up for auditions with a chance of being in an international film. So who better to talk to about the enduring appeal of this book than the man who directed the award-winning film that followed it, Ken Loach. Here it is, the home of 16 films. Hello, it's Greg Davis. I think that was Ken Loach. Here we go. Let's face it, I'm out my depth here. I quickly set about impressing the celebrated director by showing him how good I am at clapping. I'm going to start with a really pedestrian question and ask you just to tell me how it came about.
Well, I met Barry Hines through Tony Garnett, the producer of Kes, and Tony and I were old friends at the BBC, and we'd done a lot of stuff together. We were hoping to make a feature film. Tony had met Barry Hines and asked Barry to do a story for the Wednesday play.
Tony.
Greg? And he said no. And that surprised me. Sometimes you just meet people and you just click. He'd got very piercing blue eyes that just went through you. And he said there was a book he wanted to go and write. But then 18 months later, his agent sent me a draft of The Kestrel for a Knave. And I started to read it and then cancelled everything for the rest of the day and read it till I'd finished. And made a decision there and then that we must make a film of it.
Wow.
I mean, the truth of the book shone through, the comedy of the book shone through, and of course the great thing that is in the book was the strength of the central image of a boy who is trapped, training a bird that flies free.
How easy was the book to turn into a film script?
Very easy. I mean, Ken and Barry and I took a screenplay credit, which I think now we shouldn't have done, because it was all there in the book. It was a script editing job, not a screenwriting job.
Right.
Because it was there. You read the book and you're watching a film.
Both film and book tell the story of a boy whose secret life with a trained kestrel transcends a loveless home and cruel education system. Having failed his 11+, Billy, like so many, is set up to fail some more in a secondary modern school. Weeks before leaving, his options for the future seem predetermined, but he quickly reveals a defiance that becomes central to this story.
Right then, well, would you like to work in an office? Or would you prefer manual work?
What's manual work?
Oh, it means working with your hands, things like farming, engineering, plumbing, things like that, as opposed to pen-pushing jobs.
You're right in an office. Have a job to read and write.
Well, if nothing I've mentioned so far appeals to you, and if you can stand a hard day's work and you don't mind getting dirty, there are good opportunities in mining.
I'm not going down, Pete.
Oh, don't be put off by what you've heard. Conditions have improved tremendously.
I won't be seen dead down, Pete.
I started my teaching career in a secondary modern, as did Barry Hines. I'd hoped to visit the school that he taught in. Part of the film was shot there, but it was demolished in 2010. In its place is this shiny new academy. It couldn't be a bigger contrast to the school in the book, and I wanted to see if Billy's story resonates in any way with the children being taught here today. Before I prove conclusively that I am as bad at real teaching as I was in the 90s, here's me giving a nuanced portrayal of a fictitious teacher that some of you will recognise. Good morning, and shut up.
Maybe I could compose a regular memo with how it's all going.
OK. Why don't you drop that in my pigeonhole?
Great, where's that then, sir?
Any bin. I've just walked past 3 classrooms and loads of kids have been shouting Gilbert at me. In between us lives on. Right, I'm about to teach my first lesson in 14 years. I'm shitting myself. Oh, well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're right, Mr. Moore. How are you?
Good to meet you.
You can sit down now. I'll take it. So I taught for 13 years, and that is the first time I've ever had a round of applause coming into a classroom. Do you applaud your teachers when they come in? No. Good. What did you like about Kestrel for a Knave? The school's hand-picked class of pupils are disappointingly compliant.
I liked how Billy wasn't very good academically, found something that he actually enjoyed doing and he continued to do that.
I was hoping to bore one of them out, 60s style. As you can see, alas, they're too nice.
I liked how realistic it was because it didn't try to glamorise it or try to make his life seem better.
Being here, it's easy to feel that A Kestrel for a Knave is about a very different time and place.
Come on, quickly, Casper. Never seen such working.
Does it feel real to see teachers behaving the way that they behave?
No.
No.
I mean, what would happen to a teacher at this school?
They get fired.
They'd get fired. I was at the tail end of, when I came to secondary school, of corporal punishment being stopped. So in the first 2 years when I was at school, kids were being hit. My science teacher, Chunky Wilson, let's get that on record, he whacked me over the head with a textbook this thick because I was talking.
Keep out of trouble.
I ain't been in trouble, sir. Not since last time.
I don't think there are any Billy Caspers in this class, but like anyone who reads the book, they connect to the themes that make this story so powerful. It would take a much longer documentary to capture the realities of growing up in a modern-day Barnsley. What is certain is that it has changed dramatically since A Kestrel for a Knave was written. For Barry Hines, Hoyland Common, the mining community of the 1960s, was a powerful backdrop to his work. I'll let Barry explain this himself.
My dad was a miner. I was brought up in a mining village called Hoyland Common between Barnsley and Sheffield. And it was a typical sort of South Yorkshire mining village with the 19th century company houses and the council estate and the pit at the bottom of the street, surrounded by woods and fields, yet pretty close to a city. It's that curious South Yorkshire environment of the urban and the rural.
Mm. Were you a great reader when you were a child?
A great reader of comics.
Comics? You didn't have a lot of books at home?
No, we didn't have books in the house.
What were the comics you read?
Dandy, Beano, Rover. And then we used to swap the Rover for the Wizard and the Hotspur, and that's as far as my reading went.
This is where we actually shot the Dandy sequence, which is where the coking plant was, which features in the film when you hear the... It was, I think, one of the geniuses of Ken Loach, that he actually used that sound effect as part of the story when he was reading the Dandy, you know, the comic.
Ah, right, of course. So that when Dan was...
When Dan banged the culprit into the middle of next week.
Take that. Crash. Where did he end up? In the middle of next week, Uncle Dan.
He used the sound effect as if he was going back.
He used the coking. I didn't know that. That's...
Yes.
See? He's always learning. The perilous location for this interview confirms my creeping suspicion that the director wishes me harm. He's doing a bit of business. But we're here now, and I have much to ask Di Bradley, the original Billy Casper, who was just a local schoolboy when Ken Loach cast him to star in the film. We start by getting sidetracked.
I mean, the opportunities to get into acting in the mid-60s was virtually nil. There was one talent show on TV with Huey Green.
Of course.
Opportunity Knocks. And I remember there was one guy, and he was completely naked up from his chest upwards, and he was able to roll his tummy and make his muscles ripple. His music went... do 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 do.
Ken Loach will love all this.
It's true.
This is what you hope for, Ken, right?
This is what he did. That's the music every week.
Yeah, I remember.
The same bloody music.
I remember. I remember.
I don't know.
And all those Kes purists out there, broaden your horizons a little bit. So where are we now in terms of where the whole film was set?
Well, I'd say this is the outskirts of Hoyland, and most of the filming took place over there, which is where Barry Hines grew up as a kid.
And went to school.
It was a very physical kind of upbringing. The main things, I mean, it was a physical kind of place in so much that most of the fellas worked down the pit. And it was all sport and fighting.
You make a lot of that, of course, in Cares, don't you? And there's a memorable piece in which the two kids, McDowell and Billy, have a fight in the playground. Is that the kind of thing that was part of your childhood?
Well, it was until it was up to 11, and then when I passed the 11 plus and went to the grammar school, it all changed, and suddenly I was part of a middle class institution, academic institution, which I couldn't cope with very well at all.
Barry Hines' academic success took him to grammar school. Eventually, he lectured here at the Arts Building in the University of Sheffield. It is a place that holds answers to many of my questions about the boy from Hoyland Common who became a celebrated writer. David Forrest is the lecturer who watches over the archive. But before showing me key artefacts, he takes his cue from the director and attempts to kill me. I mean, it's a beautiful building. David, what is this?
So this is a paternoster. I think it's the only one left in the country. It's a listed building, so we've got to keep the lift as well.
The whole building's lifted. What is it?
Yeah, come on, get in.
I mean, that's dangerous. I forgive David for the lift, and we get stuck into the archive. I'm already excited. Tell me what we've got in front of us.
This is a scarf that was knitted for him by his auntie, because, so the story goes, the family didn't want to or couldn't afford to buy the scarf from the official suppliers. And we know that grammar school was a really difficult place for him because it was a place that he realised he was different because of his class. Obviously, it's never been washed.
It's never been washed.
We can't wash it, we can't affect it in any way. We don't really shrink it. It's a very important artefact to a very, very important working class writer. So, yeah.
Of course.
It does. Do you want to have a smell of it yourself?
I'm going to sniff it.
Yeah.
I like to think Barry would want me to have sniffed his scarf.
Does it smell like school to you?
It does.
Does it bring back memories?
It does smell like...
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
it
does. I would like to point out that David sniffed the scarf before I did, but that has been conveniently edited out.
You want to sniff it again?
No, I've sniffed.
All right.
I'm on camera sniffing it.
OK. So we've also got linking to his experience at grammar school. It's actually his report cards from grammar school. So,
just to explain, if I make funny noises at this point, it's because I have a weird thing about touching real historical objects. It's just me.
He was going from his town, where his mates were, where his family was, to the city of Sheffield. And you can see here, he struggled a bit at school, I think it's fair to say. So we've got English D, French D.
But English
yeah,
D.
English D again that year.
And I don't know why that's a surprise to me, but he wasn't a model student, was he?
No, I mean, he was a brilliant athlete. I think that's really, really important to make clear. He had trials for Manchester United, played for Barnsley Reserves.
I didn't know he had trials for Manchester United. So
yeah.
He was that good, was he?
He was very good. He played football at university with Bob Wilson, who played for Scotland. He played in the first team there. He played to a very high standard when he left university as well. So sport was a thing that was his passion.
This is pre him discovering George Orwell.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is pre him even fantasising about becoming a writer.
It just happened by chance. There were two things happened roughly at the same time. I was in digs with a lad who was doing English for his second subject. I mean, I wasn't even doing English, I was doing history. And one Sunday afternoon, I was boat stiff. I'd looked at the paper and read my comics. I mean, I was still reading comics when I went to Loughborough. I never read real books. And I was so bored that this lad I was in digs, as I said, who was doing English, I said to him, "Have you got any books I could read?" And he looked a bit doubtful, because he'd known me for several months by this time. And he went to his shelf and he found the thinnest book he could find. And it was George Orwell's Animal Farm. It's got about 86 pages, big print. And he put my finger under the lines and set me off. And I managed it at one sitting. And it was the first book I'd read of my own volition. I mean, I can't remember now what I got out of it, but it must have just been the narrative, the story. It was a good story, and I read it, and I thought, oh. And there was a chink in the armour.
For Barry, football was a means of expression. But when his flatmate introduced him to the world of fiction, an alternative future began to present itself. Barry's first wife, Margaret, witnessed the metamorphosis firsthand. I put her at ease with some more top-grade clapping. When you and Barry first became a couple, He had no ambitions to become a writer. And then he went to London and he read Animal Farm, and suddenly this ambition was born. And I just wonder, was that a shock to you as someone?
Yes, it was a surprise. He became obsessed with reading. I don't know how he passed his PE certificate, really, because
it took over to that extent,
yes,
did it?
Yes. He had a full-time job in a school in St Marylebone, and he wrote at night and weekends. But he was a busy man because he also played for Crawley Town on Saturdays, still keeping his football up. Yes, but he was absolutely determined even then.
Before he'd had his eureka moment and thought, maybe literature's the path for me, sport was incredibly important.
Yeah, and his university dissertation actually is all about the relationship between academic life and sporting life, and the fact that for young working class people, there are many, many talented people, but they exercise their talent through sport.
But football as a form of expression,
yeah, absolutely,
rather than having a kick around in a park, is such a fascinating idea.
So the dissertation was written, there's these long descriptions where he tries to write football as ballet. And his first novel, the novel that he writes before Orchestra for a Knave, The Blinder, is of course about football. And Hines writes the football scenes as though they are kind of extended sequences of dance.
The centre-forward rolled the ball to Lenny, who retreated into his own half and aimed his kick out to the wing. The ball rose and travelled diagonally across the pitch, curving down like a rainbow at the feet of the running wingman. The ball had beaten the full-back for him. Lenny pivoted on his left leg and swung his right, pointing his foot like a ballet dancer. The ball would have gone a long way if the net hadn't stopped it. Lenny signalled the goal by raising his right arm. Mr. Brooke spun a full circle on one heel.
How much of that early writing of yours is really autobiographical?
Well, the first one, The Blinder, was wish fulfillment, really. It was me. It was what I would have liked to have been. It was
a footballer.
A footballer, but more than that, it was the lad in it was George Best with 6 A levels. That's what it was about. Somebody who got everything going for him.
Yes.
Oh, I loved writing that book. I didn't know how difficult it was, you see, to write a novel.
Yeah.
I'd never having been a literature student, and never having to do criticism, and never having done a degree in literature, I never had any of the great masters looking over my shoulder.
He didn't sit down and knock off 1,000 words before lunch.
Yeah.
He mimed them.
Right.
But his images were so eloquent. There's a little line about a toddler on a tricycle whizzing down the pavement. And he said his legs were going like bees' wings.
Ah, lovely. Yeah.
And so you could see this little, this little kid doing this.
One of his literary heroes is Ernest Hemingway.
Right.
And you can feel that spareness of style.
Yeah.
But that also means that it's very direct and it's blunt. So it's highly poetic, but it's poetic in a way which is economic, which is almost efficient.
The sky was a grey wash, pale grey over the fields behind the estate, but darkening overhead to charcoal away over the city. The street lamps were still on, and a few lighted windows glowed the colour of their curtains. Billy passed 2 miners, returning silently from the night shift. A man in overalls cycled by, treading the pedals slowly. The 4 of them converged and parted, pursuing their various destinations at various speeds.
I think he wrote 3 drafts of Orchestra for a Knave, and throughout I helped him with that. We used to sit together and go through it together, and and make decisions about which word to take out, which word to put in.
So you were that forensic about it together?
Yeah.
You were analysing sentence by sentence, were you?
Yes. He was determined and he was driven. The novel was published and the film was made the year after. Soon after that, Sally was born.
So you had a child
yes,
as well as all this?
All in the same sort of few months, really, 12 months. Yeah.
What a year.
Yes, it was. It was a good time.
I mean, this is the sort of thing that's beyond exciting for me. Because,
Yeah.
Well, you tell me what this is.
Well, this is the handwritten manuscript of Kestrel for a Knave. I mean, it takes my breath away every time I see it, and I've seen it lots of times. He wrote everything by hand, actually, and all the way through his career, you know, right up until the 1990s, he was still employing a typist to type up his work. So the early drafts of the script are like this as well, and it's that, yeah, you can see the crossings out. You can also see, it looks like he's spilt some water or a cup of tea on there.
I mean, that stuff drives me mad, this evidence of life. Yeah. And the fact that I'm holding it, it's... I mean, I've got no words for that.
But you can see the film as well, can't you, right?
Yeah.
You can really see it.
There were no curtains up. The window was a hard-edged block the colour of the night sky. Inside the bedroom, the darkness was of a gritty texture. The wardrobe and bed were blurred shapes in the darkness. Silence. Billy moved over towards the outside of the bed. Judd moved with him, leaving one half of the bed empty. Then the alarm rang.
Judd.
What?
Don't be late.
Shut it.
Clock's not fast.
I said shut it.
Yeah, that hurts.
Well, shut it then.
I'll tell me Mum on D.
Skinky hell. Hands off cocks and socks.
In a film, the writer is the most important creative element in the film, without doubt. Directors are secondary.
Not all directors would say that, of course.
Well, they are, though. Barry was involved in every aspect of the filming. Barry was involved in the casting, obviously. He was involved in finding the locations because he knew the place. And we used the places that he had in mind wherever possible when he was writing the book. He showed us what he'd imagined was the wall of Monastery Farm, which was an old, very old wall.
Yeah. I've been there this very week. The ruin where Billy Casper finds his kestrel was an inspiration for the book and used as a location in the film. It still stands today. I'm delighted when Di Bradley agrees to help me prove a theory that I've long held without any evidence to back it up. That I am a natural falconer, an uncelebrated exponent of an ancient art, a man who was foolishly overlooked by the makers of Game of Thrones for a lead role. Possibly a king, whatever.
So you just need this glove to protect your fingers, just on your left hand?
Yes, I do. Oh, God. Di, was this not petrifying going through this in the... Do you remember back then?
Not particularly. I was fascinated with them. And the fact that they were... I mean, they were chicks when we started out. It wasn't an adult bird, so I kind of grew with the bird.
With the bird?
Over the course of the film. Whereas you're heading in the deep water, mate.
Well, I am slightly nervous now.
So just hold your hand just like that.
Yeah.
And he goes to the highest point, so don't put your hand any further down than there, otherwise it'll end up on your head.
Right. Now, hang on a minute. Am I holding on to that there?
Just a bit that
bit
between
there.
your thumb and forefinger.
You need to stay down there,
Can't
mate.
see you.
Oh. Oh.
What do you see, big man?
Tiffin?
So, Greg, if you just let go.
Let go?
Yeah. Here you go.
Go on then. Way.
Hold your hand up and come round here like that.
Whoa.
And I'll come across there.
That's amazing. I didn't even see him coming. Slightly unnerving when it stares directly at me. Yeah.
He's really special.
I do feel like Billy Casper 2.0. After I've hogged the hawk, it's Di's turn.
I'll stand where you are.
Yeah,
so that...
I'll stand that the way.
OK.
Let's see how it's done.
Where is he?
He's
going to come round. He's going to come round.
Yes! Come on, lass.
on then.
Come on, big guy.
Here he comes. Hey, lovely.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh. Okay.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, Dad, it could have gone smoother. It could have gone smoother. Good job we got the original, eh?
Do you want to go to the perch? There you go. What's this? What's this then? Yes. Nice and tasty, eh? Bit of chicken biryani.
I mean, I studied this book at school when I was 11 years of age, and the idea that I would be standing next to the original Billy Casper flying a kestrel is frankly ridiculous. But it's been so lovely, a lovely thing to do.
You can see why it was such a special relationship that they had.
I can't imagine what it was like for you as a kid.
Yeah.
It must have been absolutely magical.
Yeah, it was.
Di's wonderful memories of a special time in his life chime with Billy's love of his kestrel. In a moving scene from the book and the film, we see another side to school, a teacher who cares, who encourages Billy to share his passion with the class. We see him talk knowledgeably about the technical terms that he has learnt.
All right, now tell us what it is.
Well, the leather straps and they attach to bird's feet.
This is the moment where Barry Hines speaks from the heart about the power of good teaching.
And after a while, I put it 2 inches away from its claws. And like that, like.
It contains such a rich educational philosophy. And I think his philosophy as a teacher and as a writer is to meet in the middle, to meet that young boy in the middle, to meet the Billy Caspers in the middle, to listen to them, to talk to them, to nurture them, to hear what it is, where it is that they're finding creativity and agency in their everyday lives.
Mr. Farthing's interest in Billy doesn't stop in the classroom. He makes a visit to watch the boy fly his beloved bird. If a kestrel for a knave asks anything of people, it's to find the thing that you love.
Precisely.
Creating such a unique rebel. You know?
Yeah.
Such an unlikely rebel, Billy Casper, isn't he?
He's a rebel because he embraces the natural world, because he finds wisdom and poetry in everyday life.
Yeah.
These are actually kind of quite artistic, quite rarefied pursuits.
Yeah.
And not ones that we would traditionally associate with that grim up north kind of narrative that we hear about places like Barnsley. And that's the beauty of his work.
Well, if somebody comes up to me and says, is it tame? Is it tame? Ox, I can't be tamed. Demand. It's wild and it's fierce and it's not bothered about anybody. Not bothered about me, right? That's what makes it great.
It's such a powerfully egalitarian message that all of us can have poetry in our everyday lives, just like Billy Casper.
It was basically saying that every child has a quality. You should find that quality and nurture it. It also was saying, why does this country systematically throw on the scrap heap at least 2/3 of each generation?
It says all I wanted to say about a lad who's not academic, but once he gets interested in something, he gets stuck in. And what it does, of course, it gives him confidence. And that's key, that. Because all of us, we need confidence. And the middle class have got confidence in spades. And why not? I mean, that's what they pay money for.
The story of a boy from a mining town who trains a kestrel has enchanted so many people because of the inherent sense of truth, a feeling that this tale could have happened. So it was wonderful to discover that Barry's own brother Richard was the inspiration for the book. He really did fly kestrels as a child and went on to be the on-set expert for the film.
Casper, lad, get to my room. I'll flash you, lads.
How are you doing, Richard?
Falling asleep in my assembly.
That's it. That's what I came for.
This is Greg.
Richard.
Hi, Greg.
How are
Lovely
you?
to meet you. Yeah, I'm fine, thanks.
The two Billy Caspers.
Yeah.
That's right.
United.
Billy
Yeah.
Senior and Billy Junior.
Yeah, yeah.
So he really did base the book on you or your experience with kestrels, right?
Well, some of it, yes, because I was a secondary modern school write-off, beaten at school, and I got a kestrel. I saw it flying out there, and I came with a friend.
Not here, by the ruins, really?
Yeah, that's where the nest was, in there. And I climbed up. I came out of that wood there with a friend, ladder on our shoulders, and we climbed up the wall.
The kestrel from there?
Yeah.
But what about the books, what about the library scene? Is there some truth in
yeah, that's true. I did it.
You went to the library?
I went to Barnsley Library.
What do you mean? You remember the library? I don't know about that. I know the book on Parkinson, that's all.
Well, you have to be a member to take a book out.
And you nicked it? Tell me you nicked it.
No, I didn't nick it.
You didn't nick it?
No, I went to the bookshop, tried to order it. It was 2 weeks.
Right.
But I was so fascinated. I couldn't wait, so I went back to the library, got a notepad, and copied it out by hand.
I wrongly presumed that Richard had continued to fly kestrels for his whole life and asked him to do it again.
Is it he or a she? Is it Jack? Or
This lack of research provided us with something truly special.
She tried a new tactic and came in low, seeming to flit within a pocket of silence close to the ground. Billy flexed at the knees and flattened the plane of the swing, allowing the lengthening line to pay out before her.
Go on, Richard.
She shortened her stoop and counter-stoop, which increased the frequency of her attacks and made Billy pivot and whirl and watch, but never lose control of the lure or its pursuer.
Come on, Kes.
He's calling her Kes. Old habits.
And she came, head first, wings closed, swooping down, hurtling down towards Billy, who waited, then lured her, whoosh, up, throwing up, ringing, turning, and as she stooped again, Billy twirled the lure and threw it high into her path. She caught it and clutched it down to the ground.
Caught it first time.
Richard hasn't done that for 50 years. It's us that's made him do it. It's true.
What a little beauty. Oh, that was brilliant. I never thought I could do that again.
It was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Must be like riding a bike. To have a hawk on my fist again. Oh, I think I might get another one.
The film is faithful to the book's tragic end.
I can't see myself.
Hey, Jack.
When Billy fails to place a bet for his older brother Judd, Kez's fate is sealed. Billy spends the money on fish and chips instead. Here it is then, the original fish and chip shop.
It's now called Casper's.
It's been renamed.
Yeah.
What a legacy.
I know.
Let's go and get
Listen.
some fish and chips.
They're bowls with the chips and the fish.
Serve him, will you, Mary?
Yes, love. Got any scraps, missus?
Yes, love. Can I have some fish scraps, please?
Some?
Fish scraps?
Yeah, of course
Okay, all right.
Still working it.
Okay.
Still got the Casper magic.
There you go.
You make the scraps on purpose now, though, don't you? Yeah, I'm on to you. Oh,
There
thank
go.
you.
Only half as
All right.
much for me, because I'm not as big as he is.
Fat.
Big.
Fat. While Billy eats his chips, Judd's horses win. The revenge he takes is heart-wrenching. Billy retrieving the dead kestrel from the bin is hard to watch, however many times you've seen it. Well, Di, I think that anyone who's read this book has their opinions about this question, but what do you think would have happened to Billy Casper?
Well, I felt that there was no life in the collieries for him. He would not follow his brother into the coal mines.
I think you and I would agree on that he didn't end up down the pit.
That's
He
right.
had too much spirit in it. And what we want to think is that that spirit wasn't crushed
Yes.
by what happened.
It's that attitude, screw you.
But is that you, and I agree with you, but is that you and I romanticising it? Is
No,
that you and I hoping that Billy keeps that fighting spirit?
I think he kept that fighting spirit.
I hope so.
I think he did. There's a lot of kids out there like him, you know, and what we need to do is harness that raw passion, whatever it is, that really makes them tick.
time for a selfie with the V-sign master. It's not the first one Di's had to do today.
Are you in?
Yeah.
And,
oh, he's doing the fist in the air, look.
And the two fingers, eh?
Yeah, hang on.
Yes. Champion.
David Bradley, aka Billy Casper, turned 66 yesterday.
So you...
Absolute fucking legend.
Do you know...
You don't seem to tire of, or you're doing a good impression, Di, of someone who isn't bored of talking about Kes.
Well, it's kind of been my whole life in a lot of ways, Greg. I realised very early on that Kes would probably be the production that would kind of usurp everything else I'd ever do in my life.
Your career,
That's right.
maybe, yeah.
That's right. So I embraced it rather than fought against it.
The fact that A Kestrel for a Knave remains the project that both Di and Barry Hines are professionally defined by is no surprise. Its reach and influence have been phenomenal. Time to speak to a well-known superfan, Jarvis Cocker.
Yeah, if you could come through to my office.
And Jarvis has his own personal homage to the book's famous cover.
The cover of the book was more like that. Now, this photo haunts me really because I've seen it like representations of it all over the place. But the reason this photo came about was, I think it was the NME years ago they were doing something and they were asking what my favourite book was, and I said A Kestrel for a Knave, and I brought it along, and then I think the photographer just said, "Oh, will you do that pose from the cover of the book?" So I did. Obviously, I would never normally
be so rude.
No, I mean,
I don't imagine many people who saw that image realised that you were back referencing a 1968 book.
No, totally. It's my cover version of that cover shot.
Yeah. When did you first read the book?
First read A Kestrel for a Knave. It was we did it at school. Everybody had to read in order. And so the big excitement in the class was if you were going to get a page to read that had some swear words in it. Because, you know, to be allowed to swear in class was just considered the best thing ever.
Dream, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as there was, like, a swear word, they would be shouting that. I don't like being called a bastard!
Yeah, because that was the most important part of the book at that age, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was that was my introduction to it.
What is it about the book that has made it a special book for you?
For me, that symbolism of flight and of escape from your surroundings, or escape from what's holding you down. And I think that was very powerful for me growing up. The desire to escape has been historically a massive kind of engine for people from the north, or not just from the north, but from working class backgrounds, because it's like, it gives you some energy. You kind of want to get away from there. You want to make something or write something or sing something in order to help you get away. To soar with your jesses off.
Yeah.
Like, we all need to take the jesses off now and again.
God, we do. God, I wish
And fly free. There's a lot of catchphrases you get from reading this book, you know. We often used to say that when we were rehearsing and that, you know, you've got to take the jesses off.
Did you really?
Yeah, because it's like, because you've got to like let it go.
I like that Kes specifically was being referenced in pulp rehearsals.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
I know why it speaks to a northerner, but why does it speak to other people?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's something to do with, if you tell a story in a specific enough way, people then realise that there's something genuine about it, there's something real about it, because you could only really pick up on those details if you'd lived that kind of experience. In a weird way, the more specific you make it, then that opens it up into like a universal thing. I don't know. All my creative career has been dedicated to trying to work out how that works.
Right.
Because I really think it's true. If you get the details of stuff right, suddenly it clicks for people and they say, oh yeah, this is real, and I'm going to take notice of it.
Right. So the devil's in the detail. Barry Hines' keen observations of daily life in Hoyland Common were key to this book. And that makes sense to novelist Kit de Waal, for whom it all rings true.
I know that front room, I know the kitchen, I know that school. So for somebody like me, very working class, it was one of the few books that you could say, I know that world, I know that pub.
Right.
I sat there.
It really is a window into that
Totally.
time and that place. But I wonder, do you think that it's still an important book?
It is an important book, incredibly so, because there are so few working class books written about a working class community by a working class writer. It's rare to have that. And
why? How's the landscape changed? It was a real explosion of working class voices in the 50s and 60s.
Well, people say that, though. People say that. And whenever we talk about the explosion of working class writers, it's against the backdrop of a huge body of work that wasn't working class.
Of course.
It's just that, people, whenever you say working class writer, Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner, Saturday Night, Sunday Morning, and you very quickly will run out of titles.
Okay.
Very quickly.
So there were just some big hits.
Exactly, some big hits and some really important works. And this is always what I say about working class literature. There's enough room to have it. We want to see the whole of the UK and the whole of history depicted on TV and in literature. How many Pride and Prejudices are we ever going to see? I mean, there must have been 7 or 8 of those.
No.
But we've one.
We're Darcy'd out now, right?
We've Darcy'd out, and there's one Kes.
Ken Loach and Tony Garnett adapted 3 more of Barry's novels, and there won't be many people who grew up in the 80s that didn't watch Threads, his harrowing story of the aftermath of a nuclear attack, which focused on the impact it had on ordinary working people. Class is a theme he returned to time and time again in his work, a choice he angrily defended.
People say to me quite often, why? When are you going to progress? When are you going to... I know what they mean. When are you going to write about something else? What they mean is, when am I going to start writing about the middle classes? I wonder if anybody said to Evelyn Waugh, when are you going to progress? Or ever says to Kingsley Amis, or Martin Amis, or Margaret Drabble, when are you going to progress?
Whilst A Kestrel for a Knave remains his most high-profile work, Barry continued to write unapologetically about working-class lives. In later years, he and his second wife Eleanor lived in Sheffield, where he continued to work despite failing health.
He wasn't very good at spelling. That must have been something coming on. No.
But when he was well, when you were first together, when he was well...
He still couldn't spell very well. No, honestly.
Good. I'm glad to get it on record.
Because I got called in every 5 minutes, wherever I was.
I think that's an inspiration to young writers, to find out that someone who could write as well as him couldn't spell.
No, his spelling wasn't good. But as I say, he used to phone me at work every day.
How'd you spell this? So obviously, Barry was a working class lad, but there was a stage, and really, it was at the time you met, when Barry, had had a lot of success and no longer lived in the place where he grew up. And yet class was still so important to him.
Oh, yeah. He would be delighted if somebody off his own, what he called his own class, enjoyed it and then came up to him and said, that was brilliant, Oh, his day would be made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was all right, that was. That's a quote that somebody said to us yesterday, that someone had said to him, either that wasn't bad or that was all right. And that was enough praise.
Yeah.
That was enough.
Not too bad.
Not too bad, yeah.
If we went back to Hoyland, he had to go to the Working Man's Club.
Did he?
Yeah, he had to keep going to that to prove that he was a working man, or to be the same.
Right.
He was desperate, I think, to be recognised and loved and everything by all the people round about, because he just loved them so much.
So he still wanted to be accepted by them.
He was desperate
and to feel part of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if anybody ever praised him for something, he was over the top pleased. He was just so delighted, because he thought that they were a lot better than he was.
Right.
Because they were the people that he loved more than himself.
Yeah.
And that's probably a bit mixed up, but you know what I mean.
Diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, Barry moved back to Hoyland Common with Eleanor, where he spent many happy nights at the local Working Man's Club.
What's the use of sitting with a glass of wine?
I'm meeting best-selling novelist Millie Johnson, a northern success story, who feels Barry made her career possible. I arrive early, only to discover that in a final act of sabotage by the director, there is a technical problem. Look, if I stand up. How did you get on with Barry Hines, Millie?
That's just not right, is it?
So...
You're still taller than me.
So, Millie, I understand you knew Barry.
No, I didn't.
Jesus Christ.
I said, last time
She's
I
made
did
me get
that,
on my
I got
knees.
banned out.
She's made me get on my knees. She didn't even know Barry.
Hold on.
No, I didn't. I
you?
really didn't. No, he was just a big influence on me. When I started writing, it was reading Barry Hines, and I thought, you know, this guy's done it. He's from Barnsley, he had the same background as me, and he wrote about the people around him.
Yeah.
Here, in this town.
I mean, that's the reason why I'm taking part in this, really, is you never forget the first books that you suddenly think, oh, maybe I could read.
Yeah.
Maybe I could be interested.
Yeah, and that's the power of words, isn't it? You know, to drag you into the world of books, and it's a real door opener. So the longevity of the book is that it's still relevant today, and you know there are kids who are still as undernourished, both in a with food and books. And it resonates as much today in today's world as it did then. It should still be on the.
It's come off the curriculum.
I know
hasn't
it should be on the curriculum because it is a relevant book. It's
we should
bonkers
start
what's
that movement.
We should
get it back on the curriculum.
We should. It started here. You heard it here first.
Right here in the Hoyland Common Working Man's Club. There was a particular risk that anyone who lived and drank with Barry ran. As the club's manager, Mick Whittaker, reveals to me, there was a strong possibility that you could end up as a character in one of Barry's novels.
Some of the characters that were based in there, the one that Brian Glover played.
Yeah, the teacher,
Yeah. He was still teaching at Kirkbolt when I was there. Ronnie was a games teacher, and he walked out with ball under arm. Right, I'm Manuel.
Right.
And you're fucking Barnsley.
Is that right?
Oh, he was just like Brian Glover.
Right, and it's Manchester United versus Spurs in this important fifth-round cup tie here at Old Trafford. And it's the fair-haired, slightly balding Charlton to kick off.
I asked Barry, and that character based on Ronnie Allen.
I love the idea that he was watching
He
Ronnie.
based them characters on people that he knew.
You believe those people existed?
Oh, yeah, they did.
and we've all known Billy Casper, haven't we? We've all known that.
We've still got some around here now.
Yeah, I bet. Tell me about your experience of Barry in here.
And he weren't Billy Big Note, he was just Barry. He just used to come in, he'd buy us a glass of red wine. Sometimes he'd come in with wife, sometimes he'd on his own. He'd just sit there. If anybody approached him, he'd have a conversation with him. If not, he'd just sit there with his own thoughts. And he knew what he'd done for around here.
Yeah.
And he wrote that book. That book is brilliant.
Yeah, it's amazing.
In his later life, when he were failing and he got a bit of Alzheimer's and that, he must have thought so much about this place because as he got worse with his illness, he still came here.
Yeah.
So he must have felt safe here.
Oh, yeah. Well,
there was so
all
much
the
about.
accounts I've heard is he loved this place.
There must have been so much about this place for him to keep coming here.
Yeah.
This place must have been somewhere in his head or his heart for him to keep coming here.
Well, there's no doubt Hoyland Common was in his heart. I mean, no doubt.
Well, I think so.
There's no doubt about that.
I think so. Yeah.
It was central to everything he did.
That book will be read 100 years from now about what it was like to live at that moment in that place. But as a writer, he also had a stance, and his politics gave him that stance.
Some people are so poor and they have such, poor lives. Whereas rich people never say that they're rich. They're always hard up, aren't they? That's what I was angry about. People who've got loads of money and never earned any.
And so we end as we began. Me, inexplicably filmed from above, walking up a road. As soon as I've put that shirt in the washing machine, I reflect on what I've discovered. There was something that Jarvis said that made me think about the journey we've been on with this book. He said when he was at school that kids in the class were just excited to read out the swear words because it was legalised swearing in school. And it made me laugh straight away because I remember it so clearly from being at school myself, and that kids in the class who wouldn't normally volunteer to read were volunteering to read because they knew there was a bastard coming up. And when I started teaching, my motivation was not great as well, because I was reading this book purely because I knew it engaged children. I wasn't really engaging with the book myself. I just knew it would get them. I knew the story would get them. Something I didn't appreciate as a 20-something-year-old teacher, that's for sure, is quite what an angry, defiant little novel is. I should take little out. Angry, defiant novel. And I love that about it. And that, because there's so much that we should all be angry about, especially now, there's so much that we shouldn't just put up with going on in the world. It sort of makes the novel feel more relevant than ever, really, in its central message of we should be looking after each other and that we shouldn't just put up with the status quo. I mean, those themes couldn't be more relevant, could they, with the shit show that's the world today. It's a real work of art. It's a real rounded work of art. And I hadn't quite appreciated that. And it's quite a trick to pull off something as being so specific to a part of the world and make the themes so huge and so universal. Clever bloke, wasn't he?